Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much for waiting because we were preparing for live streaming on Facebook. And thank you so much to all my participants and guest speakers for joining us today on SDG14 Life Below Water. This is very important sustainable development goal that we hardly hear about. And even though even we don't have much performance evaluation and contribution to sustainable development goals that we have, but fortunately, I think we are quote unquote lucky enough to have advisor to Prime Minister on Climate Change, Malak Amin Aslam Khan, saying a day before that we have achieved SDG13 a decade before. And they say they had a joint meeting with UNDP on it. And let's see, we would also be analyzing sometime in our next webinar. But life below water is a very important sustainable development goal that needs a lot of interventions, I believe, and whatever interventions that we have taken so much, and they should need to be mainstreamed. And that is why, after realizing that this development goal is much less talked about, I thought to have a webinar on it. And we are having this webinars since March, and we have covered all neglected subjects as in the context of COVID earlier. And now we are trying to look forward a way to find way forward for the different subject matters. And this is the one. And because I'm not very much expert on sustainable development goals, but as a journalist and broadcaster, having been to such kind of interventions, I have very little knowledge. But luckily we have Mirza Zishan Beg Saab, who is Director General Maritime Affairs with Planning Commission, and I would request him to tell us what are the importance, what is the importance of the Sustainable Development Goals in the national life and interest, and how SDG14 would be contributing to the national interest and to the interest of the people. Before going to Zishan Sahab, I would share with you that I have also requested Parliamentary Task Force convener MNA Fatiana Sahab to join us. And I believe he might be joining us, because today they also have a cabinet meeting, and afterwards 4 o'clock they have they have a National Assembly session as well. And I have also requested MNA and Parliamentary Secretary Kamal Shozab Saiba, who is the Parliamentary Secretary for Planning Commission, and she also look after the social special initiatives of the ministry as well. Let's see if those busy guys can join us, because I believe whatever we experts do, whatever we bureaucrats do, whatever we the people belonging to research and academia do, is have less impact until we have political commitment, and we need to have them into loop. And afterwards, I would, after Zishan Sahab, I would request Rear Admiral Retired Rasleen Beg Sahab to make his presentation, and then we would have Admiral Retired Asif Sahab, and of course, we would have Dr. Najim Abbas from UK. He would be joining us soon, and he would be speaking about the best practices. I have asked him to get some good practices from around the world to tell us, to share with us. And then certainly we would be joining Nagmana Zafar Sahaba to tell us what are the policy gaps. And then I would request Kamar Javed Sahab to tell us like how we can bridge policy and somewhere between we would also be joining us with the Center for CGSS Executive Director Khalid Saab, and he would also speak about maritime, whatever research they have, and tell us like how the stakeholders could do much more. यहाँ पे मेरा ख्याल अंग्रेज़ी ख़त्म हो जाती है, ये इसलिए बताना ज़रूरी है कि इट इज़ नॉट कि मुझे अंग्रेज़ी भी आती है, और दूसरा ये है कि इट्स अ बायलिंगुअल, और इसमें ये है कि आप अंग्रेज़ी भी बोल सकते हैं और दूसरा ये है कि आप उर्दू भी बोल सकते हैं. There is no hesitation in it, and it is bilingual and more sort of interactive as well. For example, like अगर आप ज़ीशान साहब बात कर रहे हैं and you want to put up some question, and you have you can just raise hand and I will take you in, and you can ask Zishan Saab. If you have a certain pertinent question that you would like to discuss then and there, we can ask Salim Saab as well to answer that question before proceeding ahead. And our webinars are more sort of interactive, and ठीक है, ये कोई फॉर्मल भी है, मोर रिसर्च ओरिएंटेड भी होते हैं, मोर पॉलिसी ओरिएंटेड भी होते हैं. वी लव टू हैव रिकमेंडेशंस एंड ऑफ द सेमिनार सो दैट इट कुड बी पुट अप टू स्टेक होल्डर्स एंड पार्टनर्स. Coming back to our panelists, Zishan Saab, are you ready to take off with your presentation? And I would request you to tell us like why sustainable development goals are important, and what is the core importance of SDG14. Zishan Saab.
Sir, thank you for giving the platform and honor. So first of all, I think this webinar will be a kickoff for starting, especially on focusing SDG 14, because nowadays I'm serving as a DG Maritime in Ministry of Planning. Ministry of Planning is the stakeholder with respect to the SDGs in Pakistan, and there are a lot of they have done work on this list. But once we talk about specifically for SDG 14, I think there is still focus. That focus is missing from high echelon, and we have to shift that focus. We have to give that importance to that issue. Right now, life below water is so important. If we take an example of few minutes back in Karachi Harbour, from Natijati bridge, few young boys, they have dropped 3 drums of oil near Ghazbandar AOR, where you can see the bridge, and it's only the 3 oil drums of garbage in a liquid form. But what they did, they have just make the whole channel full of filth, black water and all toxic. And all these naval platform and merchant ships are, but there, and that is a dilemma. But the people don't know what is, life below water. So if you see this, I was talking in Karachi a few minutes before. That was alarming, so I decided to share on this platform also. Let me start with a very famous quotation that the World Commission on Environment and Development has said: humanity has the ability to make development sustainable, to ensure that it meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That is a very famous quotation. Whenever you see some article, people used to, highlight it. But if you once again give a look to that statement, it is without compromising the ability of future generation. Gentlemen, today we have to do something where we should not compromise for our future generation, and that is, SDG14 is very much important for that. It's not only talk about the climate change, its effects are not only for the climate change. And in the latest report, if you see the IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they have also published an article on 24 September 2019. They established that the globe is on the verge of disaster because ocean temperature and the marine heat waves have increased by more than double since the end of the last century. Moreover, ocean acidification has increased and the amount of the oxygen has decreased from sea surface to different depths as well. Therefore, it causes negative impacts of marine species, community, biodiversity, production, and fisheries catch possibilities, etc. And recently, we have observed that in addition, there is an increase of 2-degree temperatures all over the world, and average temperature is increasing, and carbon credit in the sea is decreasing with the lot of man-made activities. And if we see the Pakistan, in Pakistan there's a lot of members in the panel who can brief us more about this sustainable activities. I think there's a lack of interconnectivity between the department and especially between the federal and the provincial stakeholders. And if we talk about the provincial stakeholders, there's lack of departmental connectivity, and there are a lot of institutions in Pakistan. We are missing representation from NIO from this platform. In the future, we will try to fill this gap with the help of NIO. Their basic responsibilities to look after the oceans and seas, as Pakistan has a coastline of 1,000 kilometers and plus. But if you see the jurisdiction of Sindh and Balochistan, that is very much important to make your legislation at the national level or at the provincial level, where people should understand and the department should work each other. We need a platform where we can talk about, especially for SDG14. Earlier, I was talking about that. Yes, there are a lot of platforms with respect to the other SDGs, but I think there's a Munir, Ahmed can second me. We are still missing a platform, especially talking about the life below water. I think in the end we can at least make some recommendations, or we should make some proposal so that we take it at a governmental level. At least we should focus on SDG14. Sir, I will not take much time. Now I will request to other audience to open your questions accordingly, and so that we can interact and we can solve our queries by discussing this thing. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mirza Zishan Beg Saab, for your very brief and very solid comment about it. And I really believe like that is the missing, because we have several platforms for every other sector in the development sector, about poverty alleviation, about climate action. But this is really very unfortunate that we don't have any joint platform of stakeholders and with the participation of civil society and academia to propagate SDG 14. And this is really welcome if, as a Director General of Maritime at Planning Commission, if we have your patronage and patronage from the scholars like Rear Admiral Salim Akhtar Sahab and Admiral Asif Sahab, and if they all come together, I think this could be the beginning of a multi-stakeholder platform. And my organization and my networks that we have in Pakistan and around the globe, they can be part of also that platform. It maybe have a formal or informal outlook, whatever the people will decide. And for this, I would like to ask every participant to leave your message in private to us with your phone number, designation, so that like after this, I think we should go about joint platform, and those who are participating in the webinar today, they would be the founding members of that platform. And that would be a great initiative. And before I ask anyone else to ask you a question, I would, Zishan Sahab, ask you, what are your major initiatives regarding maritime as sitting in the planning commission? If you say like these are the, in bullet points, these are the 4 or 5 initiatives that planning commission is taking up.
Sir, recently in the planning commission, sir, we are taking the case of Karachi shipyard, in which that Karachi shipyard is, you know, in the past they have made a lot of gates for the bridges and dams. In the recently we have seen that few dams are in built for the Pakistan. So we are trying that those gates should be built at Karachi shipyard. So we are undergoing one study for that, so that we can you know attract international companies. They should give a big order to Karachi shipyard beside shipbuilding. It's totally a new thing. You know, most of the people don't know about this thing, that this Karachi shipyard has this capacity. Also, they can they have already built barrages and gates for the Sakha barrage and Kotre barrage in the past. They have repaired. They have the capacity for that. So we are trying to shift that capability to Karachi shipyard. Okay. On the other side, sir, we have recently, we were in meeting with Minister, you know, about this, there's a, in MoMA was also there with respect to the sewage treatment plant. That is a very grey issue, but again, you know, we stopped at a time because of the issues with respect to the provincial issues, a lot of, you know, funding issues, and in the end we again halted. But we are again trying to you know revamp this issue, so that at least the sewage treatment plant should work efficiently once again, and we can address with the marine pollution issue. And on the other side, we are looking after the marine transport. That is not with respect to the SDGs. I think this is the main, we are looking at this to the SDGs. Basically, problem here is that till the time I will not get a feedback from
once I something from the ministry, from other ministry in the form of PC1 or in the form of some proposal, then I will able to you know take up this case from the. So every time I try to you know knock the windows of MoMA and the you know the stakeholders with the proposal that in this we can do address this thing. So I thought that from this platform at least we will do something with respect to the working order, because there is not a lot of stakeholders I can see with the you know steady like NEMA and other. They have a lot of potential to forward their studies to at least to us for that. So these are the things.
Okay, thank you very much, Zishan Saab. I would now request, I welcome Admiral Retired as Asif Humayun Sahab. Thank you so much you have joined us. And if you allow, can we go to Rear Admiral Salim Akhtar Saab for his presentation. Janab Salim Saab. Salim Saab.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay. There was some noise, voice problem initially. I think it's okay now. You can hear me fine, right? Before I go, I just need to just add a point on Mirza Dishan Saab's observation regarding Karachi shipyard. And since I've been associated with the Navy and being a mechanical and a marine engineer, so we have a very close interaction with Karachi shipyard. So the general engineering section of the Karachi shipyard is capable of making all such infrastructures and platforms other than the ships also. The very big capacity that exists over there, and it's nice to know that they have contacted KSEW for that and utilizing their potential. And I hope that the provincial governments also take that. Secondly, just an observation, not a criticism or anything, about the climate change that SDG14 has been accomplished. I'm a bit worried about that because climate change has affected Pakistan. One of the most worst affected countries in the world is Pakistan because of the climate change. And if we have achieved that early, I wonder what were the sort of goals that have been achieved so early. That's a good sign if it has been achieved, but so that is just two observations. Now coming to my own, ladies and gentlemen, you know that the earth is 2/3 of water. And those countries which have access to the sea are considered to be the blessed ones. And Pakistan is one such country which has about 1,000 kilometers of coastline, 240,000 square kilometers of the exclusive economic zone, 50,000 square kilometer of continental shelf. And although we have 95% of our trade going through sea, yet we can't call ourselves a seafaring nation. Because, and a very small touch of that is, how many of us take seafood? Hardly, very fraction of it. Swimming, nobody, hardly, very less percent. We are not really a seafaring nation. We don't have those activities. Basically, if I call it, it looks bad, but we are a sea blind nation. We have not taken advantage of all the potential that exists over there. The Pakistan coastal ecosystem is a complex array of natural resources. Now here we have 350 different types of species of fish that are found in our waters. We have the 6th largest mangroves in the world, in the Indus Delta. And what a wonderful plant this is, where it has a medicinal use. It acts like a nursery for the juvenile fish. That means 1/10 of the life cycle of this fish is spent in mangroves. So it's like a hatchery also. Similarly, it acts like a buffer against the storm surges. It also it acts like a feed for the livestock, especially in the coastal areas. The camels, they eat that. And Pakistan Navy is doing a lot of good work in that, where they are trying to plant mangroves in Ormara and other coastal stations. That is something that we need to do. Now, we know all that we have just 3 ports. One is the Karachi port, which handles the majority of the cargo. Then is the Port Qasim, which takes about 35% handles the cargo. And then Gwadar, which is energy and a trade corridor, which is coming up under the CPEC. Now coming to the marine pollution, let me first define what marine pollution is. As per the UN convention, it says the introduction by man directly or indirectly of substances or energy into the marine environment, resulting in such deleterious effects as harm to living resources, hazards to human health, hindrance to marine activities, including fishing, impairment of quality for use of seawater, and reduction of amenities. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a grave lack of awareness in Pakistan about marine pollution. Inadequate disposal of untreated effluents and domestic sewage into shallow seawater is a common practice, which is resulting in significant degradation of quality of seawater and affecting the biotic life. Now let's see what are the major sources of marine pollution. The coastal population and industrial centers like Karachi and adjacent creek areas, Munir and those, are the main source of pollution. Here we are talking of around 300 million gallons of daily of sewage from domestic and industrial finding its way effluents finding its way into the Arabian Sea. And mind you, only less than 20% is treated, much less than 20%, I would say. Rest all goes untreated. And I'll talk to you about that. How does it look like when it goes inside? The industrial wastewater and sewage discharge into two seasonal nalas that are there in Karachi. One is Liari and the other is the Munir. The Liari handles about 59%. The Munir handles about 25%. And Kurik and Gizri and all those, they handle about another 15% of this waste. Now this industrial waste carries with it metals like lead, chromium, and those. These find its way into the sea, and then in turn, it finds its way into the fish. That is the fish which the fisherman brings in, I buy it, and I eat it. So the cycle is complete because I am eating contaminated fish. And that's the reason why the European Union has banned fish from Pakistan. It's only the Far East that you are exporting to. And that also may be 1/6 or 1/10 of your total catch that goes there. Rest is all taken by poultry feed, unfortunately. Mangroves also are the result of this pollution that I mentioned. The mangroves are really being damaged and damaged very badly. And if you go to Karachi, you can see firsthand as to what is the condition over there. And when I talk of that, let me also mention, you find seawater salt being collected near, when you go towards Moripur or Hawke's Bay, you have those huge big setup of this seawater salt. What is this salt made up of? Of this sewage and industrial waste ridden water that is collected over there, and you make salt and it finds its way into your food. Can you imagine what is the sort of impact that it has on the life? Now, there are other sources of pollution that we don't talk much, and that is like the maintenance dredging of the navigation channel. So you have to keep the channel depth in there. For that, you need to carry out dredging. And once we carry out dredging, what we actually do, we loosen the already settled material, the damage that has already been done, we try to loosen that. And then we pick it up and we throw it another few kilometers from Karachi. So what we are doing is actually disturbing the hydrogen sulfide layer which has formed on the top. And this hydrogen sulfide layer, if I may say, last week you must have seen news that dead fish washing ashore. What is this dead fish coming from? These are this hydrogen sulfide effect which is making the fish to die and float and come to the jetty. So these are some of the things. Let me also share with you now practically what is the ground realities. Forget about the theory. I have been born in Karachi. I have raised in Karachi. I have 40 years in the Navy. So my whole life is over there. Let me share with you that when I used to travel in the early 60s, I'm taking of 62, 63, we were traveling from Kimadi to Manoda. And at Manoda, I will stand on the jetty and throw coins at the kids down below who would pick up this coin from the bottom of this, and I could actually see the coin while standing up on the jetty. That is the sort of clear water that we had in those days. I also remember virtually touching the dolphins in the harbor while while doing sailing. So this is the sort of impact that is brought about. We also know that tourism used to be flourishing here. In Kimadi, there used to be love boats, you used to call them. Those foreigners would come and do suntan, and the fishermen will, they have the boats ready with red sort of cushions, and they will take them and do crabbing in the harbor and cook crabs for them. So that is what we are talking of only, say 30, 40 years ago. So you can imagine what is the sort of damage. And when you talk of dredging, I was the managing director of Dockyard for 2.5 years, and dredging of the channel close to where the warships and others are used to be my part of the job. And when you really stand there and look at that, it's the black muck which is being lifted by this dredger and put in the hopper barges to be disposed of again close to the Karachi. So you can imagine what sort of, the state is. And let me also share with you, at the bottom of this is not pure sand, even after dredging. It's a black slush 3 feet in depth, which is floating around in the whole of harbor and the coast close to Karachi. This is where your marine life is there. So from here, you can judge for yourself where we are when we talk of this thing. Then we have thermal pollution that is coming from industrial discharge, heated effluent in the coastal environment, coming from the power plant, steel mill, and things like that, because the cooling is all done by the seawater. So once the seawater goes back, it's all heated, and that is where the damage can occur. And anyway, as Mirza Zishan was saying, the oceans are getting heated up because of the climate change. And here we are talking of a sort of technical level, a very a portion of thermal pollution. Then we have the oil pollution. This oil pollution comes from oil refineries, from shipping, and this oil refinery discharge, we are talking of 300 to 400 million gallons. So this water goes in, goes out, carries with it the traces of oil and stuff like that. The worst of all, I think, pollution is, again, the plastic pollution. This plastic pollution is a very serious issue. And shopping bag, plastic bottles, plastic pallets, nets, most you can see them on the beaches, littered with that. They are very damaging to the marine life itself. The green turtles, you can find them, photographs of that, entangled in these nylon ropes and in the nets. And then these plastic bags being swallowed by the marine life. So all in all, and what you find lacking, and I find lacking, is the lack of study. You hardly find material and to study and to know exactly what is the sort of damage. And I feel that marine pollution is not the damage, destruction is the making, is something that has already taken place. We have to somehow find ways to recover from this one. Then is the radioactive waste. And that comes from the nuclear plant. First we have CANUP, now we have K1 and K2 coming up. And although these plants have a very good way of actually disposal of the nuclear waste, but when it comes to the cooling of the nuclear reactors, which is done with the seawater, what is the radioactivity in that area? Nobody has measured it. Nobody knows what there's no worthwhile study on this subject as well. The economic loss is immeasurable. Loss of biodiversity, loss of fisheries, as I mentioned, the contaminated fish that we have, pollution of beaches, of course, and lack of decline of tourism, loss of agricultural land close to the coast. Here we are talking of the seawater ingress back into the Indus Delta because of the less flow. And Indus Delta is that area where the mangroves are. So what is happening is actually a lot of damage has taken place already there. Now, as far as I know, Pakistan is signatory to a lot of conventions, a lot of protocols, a lot of international treaties like MARPOL, Ramsar Convention, Kyoto Protocol, you name it, and I think we have signed it, but we have only signed it. What is the implementation part is something that we are lacking so badly. We have a national action plan. Yes, we have a national action plan, but what more than that? How are we going to protect, how are we going to sort of, from the land-based activities? So then we have a Marine Pollution Control Board. So the National Institute of Oceanography is busy with the research in the areas. The Sindh Wildlife, talking of green turtles and, so basically we have the setups, but implementation is something that we are lacking. If you do nothing else, let me talk later on. I will just have conclude and make some few recommendations. Is like setting up of some, as Zishan Sahab was saying, one platform where all these, our problem here now is after the 18th Amendment, the provincial and the federal, overlapping each other's responsibilities, and the province doesn't want the federal to come in, the federal doesn't want provinces, and there is a lack of communication. So we need to have a body which can have all these stakeholders at one place, and they can, talk about it and see what can be done. At least nothing. The industrial waste which goes into the Liari and that, at least we can make these industrial units, inko paband kare, Okay, bhai, for God's sake, you cannot throw this thing without treating it. So the untreated industrial effluent going in can be stopped, at least without doing anything on part of government, just implementing in letter and spirit what that rule says about that. Just sharing with you, which you'll not find much people talking about it. I have my master's from the US Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, and my master's was, I did material sciences, was my major in mechanical engineering. And in that major, I selected corrosion. And corrosion, I feel that this is something, instead of robotics and other subjects, this is something I can be useful in Pakistan. And what happens is that with pollution, the corrosion rate goes up. And we spend millions and billions on rectifying, repairing, and making of these infrastructure. We spend the same money on controlling this pollution. I'm sure we'll be much better off.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Corrosion is a very important aspect of it, which I don't find much covered anywhere. Then we have to have strict control on the shipping. Shipping, you know, here in our part, you see this oil being, all that cooling that takes place on the ship, and we call it, being an engineer, bilges. This is a mixture of oil, seawater, and everything. As a matter of fact, nowadays we have ships where they're not supposed to dump it out. They have to treat it, and only then they can dump it into the sea. Not dump it, like they have the storage facility on board. So we have to make sure that the ships, and we have to implement that in that the no ships really. And then we have the plastic pollution, again, something will have to be done. Or and similarly, the dredging activities and refill. We, without realizing, like we did in KPT, you know, they have created their own colony. The backwaters, which were supposed to be filled with seawater when it's high tide, it has all been reclaimed. What will be the impact of such filling for such dredging? We are not aware of that. I still remember going to this new nuclear plants which are being made, and for security reasons, they wanted to cordon off so that, you know, to protect them from the seaward defense. And they were saying, "No, let's make a breakwater over here, and we will have achieved that." And they don't know, if you make a breakwater one place, what will be the impact of such a breakwater elsewhere in the beaches. So these are very important things that I thought like we need to discuss. We can ready for any question answers that might questions that might
thank you so much, Rear Admiral Retired Salim Akhtar Saab, for your wonderful presentation, and we come to know the real problems. And now I would, without any delay, I would go to Admiral Retired Asif Humayun Sahab, because he has to leave for some other class as well. Thank you so much, Asif Humayun Sahab, for taking time out to be with us. And without any delay, and he would be telling us, educating us about International Maritime Organization in the SDG14. Ji, sir, please go ahead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's very nice to see nice participation in this webinar on SDG14. And I got a little confused, I would say, because by profession, I'm an ex-submarine officer. So as soon as I saw that the topic of this webinar was life below water, I thought we are talking about creating cities underwater or something like that as SDG, because the land area is finishing and there is a lot of coastal erosion and whatnot.
Just on the lighter note, in fact, all the surface, the land has been acquired by the mafias. So we need to go to below the water.
It will be, I can tell you, it will be easier to purchase the land than to make cities underwater, because it will be very expensive proposition, and certainly not for the people of the below poverty line. The people below poverty line cannot dream of living underwater. It will be very expensive proposition.
Sir, please.
I want to thank Mr. Munir Ahmed and DTN TV and Devcom for organizing this webinar. And it's easy to organize such webinars and meetings on the Zoom or Microsoft Teams or platforms like this, because first of all, it is a very it is a informal way of interacting, and at the same time it allows us to be casual. Who knows what I'm wearing? Am I in my Bermudas, or I'm wearing chappals, etc., etc. And you can see that this space photograph behind me does not actually tell you where I'm sitting. This is, I did not realize this was my class background when I was taking classes in June, July. So the topic I have chosen for myself is IMO and the Sustainable Development Goal 14. And I've chosen IMO particularly because Pakistan has been so lacking in participating in the platform of IMO. Before I go on and talk to you people about IMO, let me tell you something about why the ocean is so important in our life. First of all, you all know that 90% of world trade travels through ocean. That is a very well-known fact. But what about climate and our living? Marine life produces 70% of oxygen which is available on planet of Earth. It absorbs 1/3 of carbon dioxide. Then ocean is our planet's air conditioner. Unfortunately, it is breaking down. Ocean is now unable to maintain the temperature as efficiently as it used to, and global temperatures have risen by at least 2 degrees centigrade on average. And we talk about heat waves on Earth. Ocean is also experiencing heat waves, and which are causing a fantastic amount of destruction. Great Barrier Reef, Tasmania, etc., have lost up to 80% of underwater habitat for kelp, for the coral reefs, etc. So ocean is under great threat by the human consumption. And only 2.5% of ocean enjoys the full protection it needs to regenerate. And people are trying to declare 1/3 of ocean as marine protected areas so that it can regenerate itself, which is a very uphill task. Why it is uphill task? Because 60% of ocean is not governed by any national authority. The high seas is for humans to use, but the governance is only at the level of international governmental organizations like UN, etc. And so a lot of I don't want to talk about fisheries, etc. A lot of plastic dump is floating on the high ocean. The marine fisheries have been totally, suckered in by big nations. I would say big nations, which otherwise appear to be contributing to, I would say, climate change actions, etc. For example, do you know Japan is allowed to capture as many as 100 whales every year in the name of research? And this research is going on for God knows how many years. International Whaling Commission, they are a big contributor to International Whaling Commission's paycheck. So International Whaling Commission allows them year after year the whaling expedition. Same is the case with Norway. Spanish fishermen are fishing at high seas in Indian Ocean. So we talked about sustainable development goals, but at the same time, our heart is not in it. And the world conscience is not in it. I'm sorry to say, this is so obvious in the Corona and the COVID pandemic, which we are witnessing now, that we are having a similar fight between America, China, and WHO as we are having in Pakistan between federal government and Sindh government. It's sad. It is sad. Now, let me come to my topic and talk about IMO. IMO came into being in 1959 as International Maritime Conventional Organization. It was created after International Convention on Aero Organization, ICAO, which has been much in our press after our pilots' licenses, etc., etc. Unfortunate, but we are a country which have a lot of laws which are not implemented. And in 1982, when UN Convention on Law of the Sea was approved, its name was changed to International Maritime Organization. It is headquartered in London, which is, again, I would explain to you when I'll come to Pakistan's role, that why it is a bad location. It's such a bad location as far as Pakistan is concerned. It has 173 member states plus Cook Island as its member. And many big member states maintain special ambassadors in London to attend to IMO. IMO's primary purpose is to develop and maintain a comprehensive regulatory framework for shipping. And its organization today includes safety, environmental concerns, legal matters, technical cooperation, maritime security, and the efficiency of shipping. IMO is governed by an assembly, like the UN General Assembly. There is an assembly of member states in IMO, which meets every year, and it discusses the issues in front of IMO. And I would say that IMO produces paperwork for nations to go through, dilate, and in the ministries to work out their policies on maritime matters. And I would not be amiss if I say the paperwork produced by IMO every year weighs more than a ton. It's huge amount of paperwork. The work of IMO is conducted by 5 committees. It has 5 committees, and they are supported by technical subcommittees. We have some very important position holders in IMO. For example, Mr. Ahmed he is in charge of special projects of IMO, and he is a Pakistani. Now, coming to what IMO has done so far, I will talk about only those IMO regulations which affect SDG14. First is Maritime Pollution Convention. This convention was made after the famous Torrey Canyon disaster off the coast of England, which really destroyed marine life of the southwest coast of England. And so maritime pollution, it was basically for stopping the danger posed by tankers sailing close to shore. But then it has Maritime Pollution Annex 1 and Annex 6. Annex 6 is particularly important today when we are talking about, because that deals with the air pollution by ships. Ships over years, because for saving costs, they use the worst kind of fuel. They use worst kind of fuel, and the ship exhaust, that is a number of nitric oxide gases and sulfur dioxide, sulfur and other gases are very, very much part of the ship exhaust, which because of rain join in the ocean and raise acidification of oceans. And I'm sure there are technical people here today who will talk about acidification of ocean. Acidification of ocean in Atlantic especially is now risen to levels which will not be able to sustain marine life at all.
एडमिन साहब ये जाहिर है कि ये जो इसके डिस्क्रिप्शन जो है ये थोड़ा सा जाहिर है कि तवील हो जाएगा। मैं इस पे एक थोड़ा सा इसको पाकिस्तान के साथ थोड़ा सा जोड़ने की मैं सर एक सवाल मेरे जहन में आ रहा था जब ये आप बात कर रहे थे कि क्या इंटरनेशनल जो मैरीटाइम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है ये जैसे फर्ज करें कि हमारे जैसे जो मुल्क हैं जो कुछ जो इंटरनेशनल फ्रेमवर्क्स हैं उनकी पासदारी नहीं कर रहे या कोई ऐसी एक्टिविटीज़ कर रहे हैं दे आर नॉट मैरीन फ्रेंडली, तो उसके ऊपर आईएमओ का क्या रिएक्शन होता है और क्या एक्शन हो सकता है?
देखिए मैं ये कर्ज करूंगा, आईएमओ जो ये SDG14 है इसमें दो बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट एरियाज है. आईएमओ हैज नो ज्यूरिसडिक्शन ओवर देम. वन इज फिशरीज. Fisheries is looked after by Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. It's not looked after by IMO at all. IMO governs the standards of fishermen training and the big fishery trawlers, standard of watch keeping, collision avoidance, etc., etc. But as far as fishery is concerned, IMO has got no control over fishery. Then the other is the other agency which looks after environment is UNEP, which is also again not a IMO organization. So मैं ये अर्ज करूँगा, जिस तरह हमारे मुल्क की गवर्नमेंट है और आप किसी मिनिस्ट्री से सवाल पूछते हैं कि यार ये कैसे हो गया, तो फौरन दूसरी मिनिस्ट्री का इशारा कर देता है. इस तरह ये जो इंटरनेशनल सिविल सर्वेंट्स है माशाल्लाह दे आर पेड वेरी वेल, नो डाउट अबाउट दैट, बट they really like to work in the confines of their organization. For example, 2 years ago, Pakistan had paid FAO $5 million to carry out fishery survey in Pakistan, which came up with figures which people will talk about here. And secondly, why I said that IMO's headquarters being in London is a handicap for Pakistan. You know, when the invitation or delegation for the IMO assembly is decided by the government, the concerned ministry has a lot of takers because it is 15 days of paid holiday in London, and nobody in Pakistan pays attention to what our delegation did in IMO assembly. So I have known that there was at least one secretary of the concerned ministry who went to IMO assembly, showed his face one day, and then passed 15 days in London on government expense, and continued to visit his other relatives for 45 days. He came back after 2 months. Then a minister's PS, he was told by, यार मैं तुम्हें लंदन भेजूंगा 15 दिन के लिए गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंस पे, तुम एंजॉय करके आओ, तुम बड़ा काम करते हो. So I wish IMO headquarters was in a place like say Addis Ababa or some place where people, only concerned people and serious people will go and really contribute to work and bring back some benefit to Pakistan. So that is one thing. Then I would say about 2 or 2.5 years ago, because of pressing of naval headquarters again and again and again, ultimately in our High Commission in London, there has been an officer who has been posted for IMO work on, which is a very positive development. And I can see Mirza Zishan Beg Sahab are smiling at my these London holidays of people. And so an officer has been posted, and I hope that our work will improve. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, IMO's work does not get implemented to the best possible effect simply because we lack capacity. For example, we don't carry out safety inspections of the ships visiting Karachi port, because there is one, in Pakistan there are 2 CNSs. One is Chief of Naval Staff and the other CNS is Chief Nautical Surveyor. Okay, so it is Chief Nautical Surveyor's organization which is so limited that they cannot implement safety of ships, safety of life equipment, etc., etc. But coming more to the implementation of other IMO conventions, like for example, Ballast Water Treaty. Pakistan has signed on Ballast Water Treaty. It is easy for us to implement simply because we have only 9 or 10 ships, so we can implement the ballast water cleaning system on those ships. But we don't still have effective organization to check ballast water system on ships visiting Karachi port, which is causing damage to our water, because ballast water, for example, taken from Gulf, when it is discharged in Karachi port, or ballast water taken in the Malacca Strait when discharged into our Karachi port, it introduces foreign species which at times is very destructive to local species of fishery. And there have been cases. I remember Captain Tariq Masood did a paper on this. He is very knowledgeable about this matter, the ballast water treaty, and he knows that what damage it causes in the when you bring foreign species of fish and underwater animals in our water. Second is that it will be easy for Pakistan to implement the exhaust emission regulations on our ships, because we have very few ships. But do we have the wherewithal to check the emission of foreign ships coming into Pakistani ports or sailing in Pakistan territorial waters or in our exclusive economic zone where we can apply the land's law? Unfortunately, we suffer from huge lack of capacity. One thing which we can do easily is, and which is undertaken by IMO, is the marine protected areas. IMO uses a special sensitive, let me give you the exact word for that. It is a particularly sensitive sea area. Particularly sensitive sea areas are those areas which are mandated by law, and they are geographically declared by governments within their EEZ or territorial waters where marine life can be protected. It is very, very important, because what we are talking about, 1/3 protected ocean, it is part of that. So the particularly sensitive sea areas, Pakistan has started making some progress, but we need to do more, and we need to do more, especially in Indus Delta region. We have started, I think there are 2 marine protected areas which Pakistan has either declared or is about to declare. One is off the one is off the Churda Island, and the other is after Astola Island. How these will be governed, that is a question. But these 2 marine protected areas are very important. And third, we must declare marine protected areas within the creeks of the Indus Delta, because that will regenerate the fishery for us. And marine, we can take these areas to IMO, and IMO will sign on. I will give you names of some marine protected areas which have been declared by IMO. Great Barrier Reef of the east coast of Australia, the sea around Florida, Canary Islands, the Baltic Sea area. So, you know, you can take your sensitive protected sea areas to IMO, and that is my recommendation, that Pakistan should first of all build capacity to implement IMO regulations which we have signed on and which we want to implement in our water. And second is we should increase the number of our marine protected areas. Thank you very much. It was nice to be part of this webinar. I will maintain now listening watch, because and if anybody wants to ask me a question, please send me a WhatsApp message so that I can come and join back again. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Admiral Retired Asif Humayun Saab, for your wonderful presentation and telling us like IMO rules and regulations for countries like us. And you very rightly pointed out that we have capacity issues. And of course, like we need to take care of the protected areas in the sea for regeneration of fisheries and mangroves that would help in improving health of the oceans. Thank you so much. Now I would like to go to next speaker, and next speaker is Khalid Taimur Akram Saab. If I have Khalid Taimur Akram around. Khalid Taimur Sahab. I don't see.
Give me a minute, sir.
Zishan Saab, you want to say something?
Yes. Sir, first of all, thank you for Admiral Asif Humayun for such a candid opinion. It was basically.
Zishan साहब आपकी आवाज कट रही है.
Very rich.
सर आपका ग्रेटिट्यूड जो है जिशान साहब तक पहुंच गया, आपकी आवाज कट रही है और हमें जरा आगे चलना चाहिए, क्या कहते हैं आप?
ओके प्लीज.
आपकी चूंकि आवाज कट रही है इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूं, क्योंकि एडमिरल रिटायर्ड आसिफ हुमायूं साहब, please accept gratitude from Zishan Saab and other participants, and thank you so much. And I hope you will be with us after like a couple of speakers. We may come to you again with some questions. Now I would like to, and I don't see Khalid Taimur Akram Saab. I don't see him here. So I would go to Dr. Najam Abbas Saab, if we see Dr. Najam Abbas. Dr. Najam Abbas Saab from UK, he's with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for joining us. Apna mic unmute kar lein, and your topic is like I have requested you to present us some best practices of on the marine protection, and I hope you are equipped with such knowledge that we are really aspiring to have. Dr. Najam Abbas.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me clear enough?
Yes, yes, loud enough.
Yes. I will share the screen now.
Share, you will share the screen. Okay.
Okay, would you please accept there?
Definitely, we will. How dare not to accept you? Can we accept screen share with Dr. Najam Abbas? Meanwhile, you can start speaking about your topic.
Yeah, because I get a message which says host disabled the participant screen sharing. So if you please sort that out. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to share a few ideas and thoughts. Last month, I had an opportunity to participate in an engagement by the World Oceans Institute. And they were discussing about similar measures which could help address the matters of marine pollution.
Okay.
What caught my attention was how they are able to connect policy, practice, and legislation, and draw attention to all stakeholders to get involved in what they call the circular economy. So if pollutants are produced, for example, plastic containers, plastic packaging, plastic bottles, then there should be stakes in economy which should recover, recycle, and salvage those at all points of production, consumption, and disposal. For that, they invited the expert from Henkel Corporation, which is one of the largest players in plastics and in chemicals, based in Germany, but it's a worldwide global corporation with 53,000 employees worldwide. And what caught my attention was the best practice that they want to lead is for climate-friendly practices, and the strategy they have devised is called 100, 50, and 0, which means that they would optimize recycling, which is 100% packaging would not come from new material by burning new fuels, by cutting new trees, but from already what is produced, they will reuse it. So 100% recycling. Similarly, they would cut down production and use of plastic packaging and containers and bottles by 50%. So defossilize plastic by 50%. And then they will bring waste to 0. So 100% recycling, 50% defossilized used, and 0% consumption, 0 waste to the environment. If I could share my slides, I could have shown how these three
Dr. Saab,
are.
Dr. Najim Abbas Saab, you have given permission to share your slides, and afterwards, you will make me host. At this time, you will be the host, but afterwards, after making your presentation, you have to ये आपने जो hosting है ना मुझे वापस भी करनी है, please.
जी जरूर.
Please go ahead. Now you can share your presentations. Now you are the host basically.
So is the screen clear to everybody now?
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you.
So we are speaking about the best practices, and the ideal way to do that would be how to interconnect, find the linkages with the overall vision, which was laid out as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, which is also known as SDGs. And although we are focusing on goal number 14, which is life below water, the best practices suggest that we should interlink and connect a few goals, a few more goals. So for example, goal 11 is the sustainable cities and communities. Goal 12, responsible consumption and production of all material which causes pollution in the first place. And then climate action, of course, conserving the climate and preserving it and preventing its pollution. And as much as we are concerned about life below water, we also need to take timely measures for life on land as well. So as is illustrated by these 5 goals, they are very much interconnected and interlinked. What we are going to speak next is possible measures we learned from best practices for raising awareness, advancing advocacy, and conducting meaningful, productive, and sustainable lasting action. Out of the survey of about 50 measures, I have selected about 10. And which of the organizations stand out in the awareness aspect is the Independent Development Dialogue Research Institute in France, which has generated a publication as latest as last month. The title of that product, the publication, is Plastic Pandemic, Perspectives on Prevention. It is one of the brief, concise, and succinct documents which help us familiarize with all issues which we need to know about. Those who are interested in downloading it, I have created a short link. If you go to tinyurl.com/C-litter1. All these links are available at the end of my presentation as well. Now, the European Institute for European Environmental Policy takes the best of ideas from 27 participating Euro countries. So best marine biologists and researchers in marine sciences, they have established a roster of experts, and this is a book which has come in recent years, which is Marine Anthropogenic Litter, which is human-generated pollution caused in the sea. This is one of the best books in terms of research, which speaks about plastic, which speaks about marine litter, and what circular economy can do to prevent, to address, to stall, to reverse, and to minimize the effects, the harmful effects of pollution at the level of the industries which are the contributor, at the level of producers, at the level of people who are affected by that pollution. So how all stakeholders could be helped through awareness, advocacy, and action. Now, when we come to best practices, of course, the most brief and succinct document of which I was lucky to be part of last month was the World Ocean Initiative, which has produced a one-page document called Bold Solutions to End Marine Plastic Pollution. And on the corporate side, the best example is Henkel, the chemical giant based in Germany. And of course, there are dedicated public sector, private sector, and non-government sector organizations which are focusing on these matters 24/7, focusing this for 365 days of the year, bringing the specialties, raising the funds, so we can make our advance to grasp the matter multifold if we cast a quick glance on such examples. So there is Ocean Cleanup, the endplasticwaste.org, and then close to Pakistan in Bangladesh, there is an initiative by the Nobel laureate, which is called the Grameen Creative Lab, which is doing some practical work to minimize pollution along coasts, how to mobilize coastal communities and empower them through training to be a positive force for change, to collect those plastic products and to minimize the effect which is caused to the marine life. Now, how Henkel organization makes the difference? So it does it by stepping up the commitment for sustainability. And this can serve as a benchmark, as a yardstick, as a role model, which I have alluded to at the beginning of my presentation, which is 100% recyclable or reusable packaging stuff, cutting use of fossil plastics by 50%, and ensuring that waste is reduced to zero. So if you go to Henkel website, I will share the link now, you will find how imaginatively they have put their finger on the problem and have come up with solutions which could be acceptable to the industries, to the practitioners, to the producers, to those who suffer and those who want to raise it as a means of awareness, which is pedagogy. So practice, pedagogy, and producers all can be stakeholders in that. And this is from their website, which is saying that they invest in innovative solutions and technologies to promote closed loop recycling, as they aim to enable contact with more than 2 billion consumers per year by providing targeted information about recycling. So just to cite an example, in Egypt alone, Henkel has 400 collection centers for plastic waste along the Nile Delta. So entire Nile now cannot be a contributor of pollution because they have empowered the coastal communities along Nile River and have engaged them. Perhaps decision makers in Pakistan can also approach Henkel and their local franchises in Pakistan to say that why not along Gwadar, why not along Pasni and along other Makran and coast areas, we could have similar projects. As far as it is related to the awareness, the best document which I have identified comes from International Maritime Organization, IMO, which has been much spoken about by earlier speakers, and by a private commercial enterprise, which is called Safety4C, safety4c.com. And if you go there and type prevention of ship garbage pollutions, you will find precise information about what the learned speaker before me has alluded to. Now, there are researches being done what the pollution pandemic will do to the animal life and marine life if timely measures are not done. So if you just type 3 words, animal studies repository without any gap, you will be happy to note millions of pounds of research has been given you in about 50 pages. All the data, there are databases which I'm going to share now. There are real-time animated graphics and maps which give you the depth and vastness of the problem, and how there are people who are suggesting those interventions. All these links are available at the end of my presentation, and those who want the copy of the slide are happy to download it. I have already uploaded it on the cloud, and all participants are welcome to use them. Now, when it comes to advocacy and collective action, one of the best examples, even during the lockdown, was the initiative at the United Nations called Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution. Countries which are taking marine pollution as a serious crisis, as serious as the coronavirus pandemic. And that is why they are drawing attention to all stakeholders to focus on the gravity of the problem and to consider it as injurious as the COVID-19 virus. And this is the launch of the program. All the documents and details are available. Again, at tinyurl.com, if you go /no-c-litter, you will get the entire proceeding which was held by United Nations and the documentation. I think if not all, at least some of those founding countries have diplomatic representation in Islamabad, and perhaps our host and partners in today's webinar can invite representatives from those countries to have Friends to Combat Marine Plastic Pollution in Islamabad chapter, which would allow meaningful collaboration, lesson learning, and best practices as well. Then this is the database. If you just type tinyurl.com /c-database1, you will get all the details how data about marine pollution is being collected. So Pakistan Institute of Ocean Studies in Karachi, and the Bahria University in Karachi, and other the institute at Karachi University, I think they can immensely benefit from such resources.
Okay, Dr. Najim Abbas, will you please conclude your presentation now?
Yeah, so I have already jumped to the last slide, that how there are dedicated efforts which focus day and night on such serious measures. So there is a global ocean observing system called GOO Ocean, and all the links and resources and publications and reports and databases are available on the address, which is tinyurl.com / and then my name and Abbas and today's date, which is 14th of the 7th month of the 20th year, 14/14/07/20. So whosoever wish to access, I already have uploaded this slide, this presentation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Najim Abbas, for sharing best practices to combat marine pollution. And definitely, like we will be seeking your guidance on such kind of issues in the coming days as well. And now I would like to ask to give back the hosting.
Yes,
Dr. Najim साहब, जरा hosting मुझे वापस ट्रांसफर कर दीजिएगा. वो ऊपर वो जो icons हैं नजर आ रहे हैं वहाँ से.
The right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to maximize this, and then I think I'll be.
Meanwhile,
so
request.
Pause share. I have paused share. So what else I need to do? Remote control. Should I say give back to you? Yeah. Yeah. Just a second, Munir.
And unshare your screen, please.
Yeah.
Munir Ahmed, host.
Yeah. Stop share. Everything okay now?
Yeah. If it
So
is
you are
okay.
back in control?
No.
I think.
End. Okay.
डॉक्टर साहब आपके विंडो के आगे यानी you will see 3 dots. You can
Yes, of course. 3 dots, yes. Stop live stream. Which step you would like me to take?
Munir sahab, it looks like
आप
as if
बता
you are
दें।
back in control.
अब जरा करके देखिए। I think.
So, Munir sir, maybe we can move to the next speaker, and meanwhile, Dr. Najam,
बिल्कुल
we
सही।
can do
There are going to be 3 dots over there, and from there you need to make him the host again. Just go to Munir Ahmed's screen. You'll have 3 dots over there, and from there.
डॉक्टर साहब, can you hear the instructions? The IT
Yes,
person is.
I have pressed on the 3 dots several times now. I have taken all the steps which were in my.
It's on.
It looks like you are back in control. From my point of view, it looks as if you are back in control.
Sir, I'm always in the.
Yeah, I think you're a host. I think so.
Achha, okay. Now I would like to move on, and I think Khalid Taimur Akram Saab is with us.
Yes, sir, I am here.
Okay, Khalid Taimur Akram is finally with us, and thank you so much for joining. And you will be speaking about climate change impact on marine. This is what I think your topic is.
Yes, it is.
थोड़ी echo आ रही है, जरा इसको जरा थोड़ा सा control अगर हो सकता हो.
Can you hear now properly?
Echo है sir.
अभी भी echo है आवाज में?
जी बहुत echo sir.
Okay.
Can you ask someone to give you like hands free to connect with your laptop?
Doing that. Now अभी can you hear me properly? अब ठीक है आवाज?
अभी भी.
It's better now, I think.
Okay.
अभी ठीक है sir?
Okay, go ahead, sir. You have like 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Munir sir, for inviting me. And I can see here a lot of seniors from the who are experts in marines. Najam Abbas Saab and Kamar Iqbal Saab is also here. And Nagmana Zafar, I can see her also here. So I would just take a few minutes and talk about the adverse impact of climate change over world's oceans. As we know that the oceans make up of 71% of the planet, and they provide many services to the human communities. However, the effects of increasing greenhouse gas emissions threaten the coastal and marine ecosystem through changes in the ocean temperature and melting of ice, which in turn affects the ocean currents, weather patterns, and sea levels. And because the carbon sink capacity of the ocean has been exceeded, we are also seeing the ocean's chemistry change because of our carbon emissions. Actually, this paper I had read in a conference in Maldives just before this pandemic, so I'm just repeating that paper over here. And because of the ocean and the climates are they are linked to each other. The ocean plays a fundamental role in mitigating climate change by serving as a major heat and carbon sink. The ocean also bears the brunt of the climate changes. The global ocean is already experiencing a significant impact of the climate change and its accompanying effects. They include air and water temperature warming, seasonal shift in species, sea level rise, coastal Indonesian coastal erosions, harmful hypoxia zones, and new marine diseases, loss of marine mammals, and change in levels of the precipitations. The marine ecosystem climate change is associated with the concurrent shifts in temperature, calculation, nutrient inputs, and oxygen content. There are also strong linkages between the climate and the species distributions and the demographies. This could eventually affect the overall ecosystem functioning and services upon which the world depends. The marine species are responding to the effects of the greenhouse gas emissions and climate change in expected ways. Some response includes poleward and deeper distributional shifts, decline in classification, increased abundance of warm water species, and loss of entire ecosystems like coral reefs. The variability of the marine life response to shift to demography and abundance distribution is likely to lead the ecosystem reshuffling and changes in function that necessitate further studies. Rapidly rising greenhouse gas emissions are driving the ocean towards conditions that haven't been seen for millions of years and is causing catastrophic effects. So far, the climate change has caused decreased ocean productivity and altered food web dynamics, reduced abundance of habitat-forming species, and shifting species distribution and greater incidence of diseases among the species. Marine life throughout all parts of the food chain is shifting towards the poles to stay cool as things heat up, and these changes can have significant economic consequences. The marine species is shifting in time and space and are not, they're shifting with a very high time and space, and the researchers have estimated that the oceans are home up to 1 million different species, and in one of the research it has been indicated that these species are very rapidly shifting from one end to another and in different oceans. The increased ocean temperature risk causing the mass migration of species and resulting in the global homogeneization of the biodiversity. This would mean a decline in number of species in the warmer water regions and drastic increase in the number of species in and the drastic increase in the colder region around the poles. This kind of change could have a very serious impact on the global fisheries in the coming times. Vital fish species such as salmon are migrating to new territories. Blue curbs and black-tipped sharks are also few of the species traveling to new horizon in search of the colder waters. Moreover, underwater cultural heritage sites are being threatened by the ocean acidification and climate changes. The climate change is increasingly altering the ocean chemistry, rising sea levels, warming sea temperature, and shifting currents, and increasing weather volatility, all of which affect the preservation of submerged historical sites. Irreparable harm is likely, however, restoring coastal ecosystem, reducing land-based pollution, reducing CO2 emission, reducing marine stressors, increasing historic site monitoring, and developing legal strategies can reduce devastation to underwater cultural heritage sites. Additionally, the coastal ecosystem like salt marshes and seagrasses play a vital role in carbon storage, per unit of area. They are the carbon fasters and far more efficiently than the terrestrial forests. When these ecosystems are degraded, lost, or converted, massive amounts of CO2 is emitted. The estimated amount of CO2 which is being emitted is goes up to 1.02 billion tons every year. and they're released into the atmosphere or into the oceans, accounting up to the 19% of the global carbon emissions from deforestation. The ecosystem services such as flood and storm protection that provide are also lost.
Okay. May I interrupt you, sir? Sir, would you like to tell us, like very briefly, while like concluding your presentation, that what climate change impact has on our oceans? इसके ऊपर कुछ थोड़ी बात आप हमें बता सकते हैं, क्योंकि हमारे लिए that is more important कि पाकिस्तान में क्या सूरत हाल हो रही है. अगर उसके ऊपर कोई अगले 1-1.5 मिनट में अगर आप थोड़ी हमें बता दें बात.
इस पे थोड़ा सा I can talk about is what can be done, what should be done. The sustainable management, conservation and restoration of the coastal and marine ecosystem are vital to support continued provision of carbon and other ecosystem services on which people depend. Marine protection areas, MPAs, for example, can protect ecological and biological significant marine habitats, including regulating human activities and prevent environmental degradation. Protection and restoration of the coastal ecosystem is also needed. Policies to prevent the conservation of these ecosystems to other land users, for example, regulating coastal development can ensure their protection. Pakistan should also develop policies and ensure the implementation of the sustainable practices in all the industries that impact the ocean and coast, including fisheries and tourism industry. Support for the scientific research is also needed. This will ensure continued monitoring and analysis of the impact of climate change with the knowledge gained used to design and implement adequate and appropriate strategies. The key to harness these opportunities, for example, is to work on forest degradations and to work on the CO2 emissions. So this is also.
Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. Without any delay, I would move to our next speaker. Naghmana Zafar Sahiba will share like policy gaps with us, like what policy gaps we have in tackling marine pollution and maritime affairs in Pakistan. Please, Naghmana Zafar, do you hear me? And if you are around, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, very much.
First of all, I would like to thank Munir Ahmed Saab for arranging this webinar. मुझसे पहले बहुत से सीनियर्स ने बात की, and I think the significance of SDG14 has been very aptly highlighted by Admiral Salim Sahab, Admiral Asif Humayun Sahab, Zishan Sahab ने उस पे बहुत डिटेल में discussion की. So we all know that what is the importance of SDG14 and what are the issues we are facing in terms of implementation or in terms of challenges to follow the targets of SDG14. Admiral Asif Humayun Sahab gave a very well overview of the international bodies, particularly the regulatory bodies who are dealing with some aspects of SDG14. So I'll be connecting his talk to my version of speech today with regards to national aspects of regulatory frameworks. So my talk would be precisely be focused on the policy gaps that are affecting the SDG14 targets in Pakistan only. And I would like to talk about some real issues, some to the point issues. Admiral Asif Humayun highlighted the need for MPA. Under the SDG14, there is compliance, there is a requirement for all the countries to have 10% of their maritime territory marked as marine protected areas. In Pakistan, we have already marked some area in Balochistan region, but In the Indus Canyon, this is where, this is the case which I would like to highlight in the context of interconnectivity between federal and provinces. That Indus Canyon region was demarcated as marine protected area in 2018. But the notification was actually cancelled by the Federal Ministry of Climate Change, stating that it's not the jurisdiction of provinces to do that. And WWF and some other organizations are working really, really hard to again implement this demarcation. But also there is a gap with regards to marine protected areas, as highlighted by Admiral Asif Humayun earlier. We do not have the frameworks for marine protected areas. We don't know marine protected areas mein hum kya karenge, kis tarah ki activities hongi, pollution control kis tarah se hoga. So that is one area which we need to focus on, that we should have at least a framework for available for the provinces maybe, so that they can know that demarcation is not the only solution, but they have to know what is the significance and how to manage these areas. That is more important. I think from the abhi tak ki jo discussion hui hai, it is very much clear that life under sea is basically being affected by the activities on land. Admiral Salim Saab ने बहुत डिटेल में डिस्कस किया about issues related to marine pollution and what we are facing these days. If the life, we all agree to the fact that life under sea is affected by the activities on land, then we need to regulate the activities of human being on land. So it means that we need to regulate the maritime sector along the coast. That is the most important thing we can do for implementation of or for achieving the targets of SDG 14. In this regard, the most important thing, I think यहाँ पे जितने लोग panel में हैं उन सबको ये बात पता है, but again I would like to highlight just for the awareness of new panelists over here, that हमारी National Maritime Policy of 2002, it has been revised. And it is pended before government of Pakistan for final notification. And that is something very important. We need to do that, because unless you don't have a way forward or a path for the maritime sector, you cannot manage the activities in bits and pieces, and you cannot talk about the effects they are causing on marine life or in terms of pollution or management issues. So first of all, you need to have a one broad, big regulatory framework in place, जिसमें तमाम areas of maritime sector should be addressed comprehensively. And for that, I think government should pay attention to launch of revised national maritime policy as soon as possible. Then fishing की बात हुई, under SDG 14 you have to regulate fisheries activities as well. The deep sea fishing policy of Pakistan, it was revised few, I think 2-3 years ago, but the effort is still on the way. The revision, according to the sources of Ministry of Maritime Affairs, the deep sea fishing policy is again under review for the revision. जहाँ फिशिंग की बात हुई वहीं I would like to again connect with the one point of Admiral Asif Humayun. He talked about IMO and FAO, and he shared an insight that how IMO and FAO actually work for the SDG 14 targets. I would like to highlight that they are thinking to launch to make it compulsory the medical certificate of the fishers from next year probably. वैसे तो ये large fishing boats के लिए होगा, जैसा IMO का criteria है 24 feet and above, but we need to see that where international bodies are going on, what they are looking at. हम तो अभी तक बिल्कुल अपने fisheries sector को manage ही नहीं कर पा रहे. Or as far as I know, FAO has and IMO has already launched the guidelines for management of small boats as well, which are less than 12 feet or some. At least if they are not a regulatory frameworks which requires a signature or ratification from any country, but at least we can see take those guidelines and try to implement or seek some good ideas for our country. So that is one point that we can do for fish management, improve management of fisheries activities. Then we were talking about, as Zishan Saab highlighted very aptly, about the misconnection between federal and provinces, and same was also highlighted by Admiral Salim. We actually have empowered provinces after 18th Amendment. They got more controlled over coastal and maritime belts under the law. But still there is a gap with regards to implementation. हमारे पास जो फेडरल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन बॉडी है, दैट इज पाकिस्तान मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी एजेंसी, both the provinces, Sindh and Balochistan, they have restricted the agency to exercise the fisheries related power. Now they cannot check fisher boats. Now they cannot have a check on the kind of catch they are having, if they are doing any kind of smuggling, or if they have the documents or what. So ये जो एक पॉलिसी में लकूना है कि जहां आप सूबों को एम्पावर करते हैं, बट आप उनको गाइड नहीं करते कि इम्प्लीमेंटेशन या इख्तियार जो है वो फेडरल के पास है, और क्यों है, बिकॉज दे हैव मोर रिसोर्सेज. सो दिस नीड्स टू बी एड्रेस्ड बिकॉज इट विल कॉज a very intense damage to our efforts regarding making maritime sector more developed, and making it more safe and secure, and our protection efforts as well. One more point which I would like to highlight here is that policy formulation or regulatory issues, or a revision of a policy, these all are very long and bureaucratic efforts. So as an alternative process, what we can do is that we can empower our youth so that they can work on innovative ideas which can be helpful to achieve the SDG14 targets. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन की बात हो रही थी. अगर आप यूनिवर्सिटीज में या स्कूल्स में बच्चों को इनकरेज करें कि दे शुड वर्क ऑन फाइनल ईयर प्रोजेक्ट टू हाउ टू डील विद प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन, उसकी रिसाइकलिंग पे, उसकी रीमैनेजमेंट पे, तो दैट कैन बी an informal but very important solution or way to achieve the SDG 14 targets. Admiral Salim has very well highlighted. मेरा जितना भी assessment है in this field and जितना मैंने पढ़ा है वो ये कि we have very, very good laws in place regarding environment and marine pollution and management of coastal areas, but implementation is not there. And we have to see with this kind of examples which I have just narrated regarding fisheries power and issue between federal and provinces, how can we strengthen our implementation wala part? That requires more attention, that we need to look into. And एक गिला है ये आप सबके सामने ज़िशान साहब से किया जा रहा है कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान की अगर आप वेबसाइट देखें regarding SDGs, you will learn that SDGs 14 is their least priority. Why is this so? I mean, I cannot really make a sense out of it. What is the reason of prioritizing SDGs into priority 1, priority 2, priority 3? SDG 14, SDG 13, which Salim Saab was talking about, climate change, they all are under priority 3 of government of Pakistan. I mean, what kind of message you are giving to the practitioners or the people who wanted to work for this field? I think that is one thing, Zishan Saab, while you are sitting over there, you should highlight at the appropriate forum and get it correct. And I don't know, it's funny, but early in the morning I rechecked this, that this has been done in the era of recent government. If you go to the web page, which belongs to the previous government, with the picture of the previous Minister of Planning, Development and Reforms, there is no prioritization of SDGs. So you need to look into it.
Okay, thank you very much, Nagmana Zafar, for highlighting the gaps that we are facing. उम्मीद है कि अब जाहिर है कि हम stakeholders को इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं, and I believe like afterwards there would be some more focus on SDG14, and with people like young people like you and others, and with the guidance of seniors like Admiral Asif Sahab and Salim Akhtar Sahab, Admiral Salim Akhtar Sahab, and such kind of people, they can guide us on various issues. I just want to ask two things. You said like there is a conflict of interest, or like of जो भी सूबों के और वफाक के दरमियान में कुछ गड़बड़ है on the implementation. एक तो ये आपने बात की, दूसरा आपने कहा है कि national maritime policy जो है that has been revised and pending with the parliament. This is what you said?
जी बिल्कुल.
कब से है ये पड़ी हुई? How long it is pending for approval?
हाँ जी, ये हमने previous government को present किया था. मेरे ख्याल में ज़ीशान साहब भी इस पे बात कर सकते हैं, because वो ज़्यादा current होंगे.
Previous का मतलब ये कम at least 3 years back.
3 years back. We were hoping for this thing कि शायद ये हो जाए, but अभी नई government के पास भी pend है. Let's see कब होता है. Secondly, I would like to say कि I don't believe that there is a conflict of interest between provinces and federal. I think ये एक policy gap है which needs to be addressed. ये chaos या unguided situation की वजह से ऐसा हो रहा है कि they believe that we should be, you know, exercising our jurisdiction up to this area or something like this, and then there is no guidance available. So it's a more like a gap situation than a mistrust or kind of thing.
Okay. Secondly, you mentioned about provinces. ये जो भी इस वक्त legal framework available है, that is of federal, and provinces have no legal framework about maritime affairs. This is what you said. समझने की कोशिश कर.
Acha, there is a maritime is a federal subject. So what I wanted to highlight here is that there is a national maritime policy which actually governs the issues related to maritime affairs.
Okay.
But provinces do have autonomy to deal and to make their own plans and strategies regarding some of the areas of maritime sector. For example, fisheries is with them. For example, tourism is with them. We are also struggling with the laws related to coastal tourism. Abhi Pakistan mein nahi hai, and they are in process of development. So provinces do have their acts. For example, protection and wildlife related acts hain provinces ke, and using those powers, Balochistan has declared these marine protected areas. But this is unfortunate that how Sindh has been restricted to declare the Indus Canyon as marine protected area. So provinces, I'm not sure, you have highlighted very interesting aspect that does provinces have their own maritime related policy or framework for their or they should seek guidance from the federal body. This is something very interesting, and I think I would look forward to work on it. You have actually highlighted a very important angle of
thank you so much, Nagmana Zafar, for your wonderful presentation on the policy gaps. Now, I would request, and without any delay, go to cover Javed Iqbal Sahab, how we can bridge.
Munir Sahab, can I add something? What Nagmana was saying?
Admiral Sahab, please add on.
There is, I think, some, for example, for fishing, provinces are now responsible and they can govern the fishing in territorial waters as well as inland waters, which is out up to 12 nautical miles.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
But the governance of the fishing, proper fishing within the territorial waters and inland waters is either with Coast Guard or with Pakistan Maritime Security Agency, which are both federal agencies. And so we have duplication and overlapping jurisdiction. So shipping, fishing becomes contestable between the federal government. And then we keep on hearing, you know, in our democratic setup. For example, Balochistan Assembly has passed a resolution which says that Arabian Sea should be named as Balochistan Sea. There is a resolution of Balochistan Assembly which is, you know, now the naming of geographical areas in the world is governed by a UN subcommission. Okay, there is a UN subcommission which does that. Then provinces keep on demanding that they should be given the right to even fish in exclusive economic zone. There are a lot of resolutions in assemblies, and there are a lot of, the matter has been taken up with the provinces, but provinces have no mechanism, what to talk of EEZ, but even in territorial waters to enforce legal fishing. They don't have. So there is a problem between federal and the provincial jurisdiction. Thank you. This is what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. Wonderful add-on comment. And I'm seeing like Admiral Salim Saab raising a hand. Sir, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add here, because I was involved with the Army monitoring teams that were set up initially. जिसमें fisheries मेरे subject था, and I was heading that team, and I have interacted. Actually, the local and that internal, that is with the provinces.
Yeah.
But the deep sea fishing, so all the fish that you catch from deep sea and exported is a federal subject. Even the health certificate is provided by them, and they are the one who governs that. Now with the 18th Amendment, it has created that problem within the province, where to draw the line or kaise hai. So that is an issue that we were mentioning, interaction between the federal and the provincial subject. So that is one thing. And secondly, that policy that we are talking of, it's been lying there for quite some time now. And now the main stumbling block is the 18th Amendment. And that is what they have not been able to address. This ki wajah se is still not approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your add-on thing. We have talked a lot about different issues, and this is really wonderful to have such kind of experts to speak about the real-time issues for the maritime affairs. And I believe like this would be a new kickoff time for advocacy on such kind of things. But we have our last but not least, Qamar Javed Iqbal Saab, who would be speaking about policy advocacy, bridging policy advocacy and action. Because as the speakers have mentioned that we have a number of frameworks, but lacks implementation. Qamar Javed Iqbal Saab, how policy advocacy and action could be bridged? Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Munir Saab. I would take not more than 6 to 7 minutes to speak on the topic allocated by you. Although it's very difficult to speak in the last, where all the aspects almost covered by different speakers. Like we have very refined people today in this webinar, like Admiral Asif Humayun, Admiral Salim Akhtar, and others, Dr. Najam Abbas, Nagmana also. First of all, thank you very much for taking initiative on maritime agenda and becoming part of this great initiative and joining hands with us, taking lead particularly in the segment where this big missing link not only in the policy arena, but also for the research domain. It is also needed that the journalists, they are also taking part, and they are now active part of this maritime agenda. I hope so from now onward, you would be quite instrumental in this regard. So before starting the topic, as we are discussing on the life underwater, conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Before formally starting the topic, I would like to share with you a quick uh, overview about the COVID-19. That before COVID-19, the ocean acidification continued to threaten marine environments and ecosystem services, and it was about 100 to 150% rise for ocean acidity. And during the COVID-19, maybe it is a blessing in disguise from the nature, from the God, that there is a drastic reduction in human activity brought about by the COVID-19. And it may be a chance for the oceans to recuperate or to recover to the healthier one, because there is they have got a chance to breathe during this COVID-19, where the anthropogenic activities, the level of activities is relatively low. If we talk about the world's ocean, their temperature, chemistry, currents, and life drive global systems that make the Earth habitable for humankind. Sustainable development goals aim to sustainability manage and protect marine and coastal ecosystem from pollution. I'm talking about the SDG14, as well as address the impacts of ocean acidification. If uh, if we discuss that why is life below water important, then we need to understand that they help with the breakdown and removal of waste and pollution, the life under water, basically the life form, and their coastal ecosystem act as buffers to reduce damages from storms. Maintaining healthy oceans supports climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts. And have you been to the seaside? If ever, it is also a great place for tourism and recreation. So most of the people in this webinar, they have the chance or they are associated with the oceans, and they are very well aware of this, but maybe few, they have not seen ocean yet. So healthy oceans are needed for a sustainable future. So there is a consensus on it. There is no conflicting argument on this. So how this can be ensured, as there are a number of challenges to it vis-a-vis anthropogenic activities and other policy, research, and other issues. If you talk about the case of Pakistan, sea blindness or the gravity of real-time awareness is a very critical and limiting factor behind all developments and sustainable use of marine resources. Some resources are underutilized, while some are overexploited, clubbed with unattended pollution being received by the marine water bodies, thus raising a big question on the overall aesthetic value of the Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean at large. So underutilized, when I use the word underutilized, that some resources like offshore petroleum resources or the others still need to be explored, or for the renewable energy in the form of tidal energy or the others, so still underutilized. And when those will be utilized, then more pressure on the marine environment would be there. So how we need to think how these will be more sustainably used in future. So for that purpose, we need to replicate best practices from the world, and need to explore more ideas. And for that, the research is needed. And what we have to know and manage is about the overall ecosystem dynamics and the value chain involved, basically. And this can be done through applied research stakeholder engagement and policy advocacy for best practices. Unfortunately, for too often, there is a gap between research and policy and practice in Pakistan. Too much research is undertaken with little relevance to real life problems. This is not the dilemma in Pakistan, but all over the world nowadays, including the marine resources and related affairs, or it is reported in ways that are obscure and impenetrable. At the same time, many policies are developed and implemented but are untouched by or even contrary to the evidence. The gap between research and practice is attributed to many proximal factors, including inadequate practitioner training, a poor fit between on-ground requirements and existing organizational structures, insufficient administrative support, and practitioner resistance to the change. The bottom line is that there are impediments to the uptake of research from the perspectives of both academic researchers and policymakers. These include incentives, communication, and the different institutional cultures. There is a need for research translation and opportunities to build relationships. To bridge the gap is to connect two otherwise unrelated things by adding something or by finding common ground. To improve the use and impact of academic research, there is a dire need of making research more applied and accessible. For example, issue-based research prepare summary documents for the others to understand easily at bureaucratic and at all stakeholder level. Strong advocacy campaign by various actors, including the peers present today, translating research findings into policy relevant results is key important thing that needs to be built in the academic research. Establishing stakeholder networks to bring together academic researchers, policymakers, and other interest groups. In case of Pakistan's maritime agenda, if you talk about, federal government along with provincial governments of Balochistan and Sindh should take necessary steps for the promotion of applied research and its uptake in policies and processes. After the 18th Amendment, all we know in National Constitution, it's 18th Amendment in the National Constitution, what are all we know here, it's a shared responsibility for various segments of marine resources. For the purpose, Ministry of Maritime Affairs needs to establish a research wing in order to ensure effective policy and planning cycle in collaboration with respective provincial and federal departments, such as environment protection departments, agencies at provincial level, or the division at the federal level, marine fisheries, coastal tourism, Ministry of Petroleum for offshore exploration, etc., and Ministry of Energy. In this regard, Planning Commission of Pakistan should provide enabling role towards planning cycle, while academic institutions be linked for issue-based MS and PhD research, where support may be taken from Ministry of Science and Technology. And last but not the least, the foremost important key segment for all these above suggestions is the capacity building of all the relevant actors. So I hope this would be a bit helpful in order to address the the gaps between the applied research, issue-based research, and its uptake at the policy level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kamar Javed Iqbal Sahab, for your wonderful suggestions. And I believe this is the only awareness raising and advocacy that helps in promoting SDG 14 and getting all the targets that are defined by the UN. And I think now we can go for a question and answers. And there I see different people. Captain retired Tariq Masood Saab, you are well admired by different speakers. And if you'd like to ask some question or add brief comment what we have discussed, and we can see Alifia Onali and Seema Mumtaz and Anna Mejaz and who else we have? Noreen Jaswal. Fatma Zaim. Those like who could not have the opportunity to speak, the name I just mentioned, like if some of you like to comment or ask any questions to the worthy panel, please go ahead, raise your hand, and so that, oh, Tariq साहब आपने तो अपना mic unmute कर लिया है, so go ahead.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I have heard all these speakers, learned speakers, and it has added to the knowledge which I already had also, and some new. But I have a question with regards to the SDG 14. If we see in the UNDP website, it says life below water. It doesn't say life below oceans. Life below water can be inland water, it can be river waters, it can be canals, sewage, environment, creeks. So why shouldn't we address in two parts, life below inland waters and life under ocean waters, oceanic waters? So there is one session. Yeah. Secondly, I would highlight that we have a Chinese corporation in Gwadar. They have done a lot of studies. We can seek some guidance, some assistance, some financial support from them to contribute to our studies and further development of this project. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any more comment? मसूद साहब माइक अपना ज़रा ऑफ कर दें प्लीज़। जो तारिक मसूद साहब ने बात की है, एनीवन, क्योंकि जब इसको मैंने पढ़ा था लाइफ बिलो वाटर, तो उसमें भी मुझे भी ज़रा लगा था ये कुछ यूएन ने, आई डोंट नो किस वजह से इस तरह का इसको नाम दिया है SDG 14 को, लेकिन दैट्स वी हैव टू बेयर विद बिकॉज इट्स नाउ several years past, and but still we can work under any title of the SDG 14 until we have good policies and implementation plans and bridging the gap between policy and action. Who like to speak? Any comment?
Can I add something? Sir Asif, do you want to add something, please? Sir,
yeah, I want
mic
to say
muted.
something. You see, the sustainable development goals are for the world. They are not only for maritime nations. And when we talk life below water, we actually want to also talk about, because sustainability has a big part in wetlands. Huge impact wetlands have on sustainability. I also saw a question from somebody who said that why we are not talking about coral reefs, etc., etc. I think people are talking about coral reefs, the impact of climate change on coral reefs, the krill colonies, etc., etc. People are talking about, and when you talk about the declaration of protected sea area of Great Barrier Reef, the Baltic and Florida Keys, etc., etc. This is all part of managing and trying to protect coral reefs. People are talking about coral reefs a lot. That how the climate change and acidification of ocean is destroying the coral reefs. So people are talking about that.
Okay, okay. Thank you for.
I would like to add on, if you allow me, Nitsa. Life underwater.
Gigi, please.
Basically, UN has developed SDGs with one very short pointer, and then it's clarifying note. You can say the objectivity further under the goal, you can say, or the detail. Like for SDG 14, life underwater is the main thing, and for that they have narrated it along with it that conserve and sustainably use the ocean, sea, and marine resources for sustainable development. Means the life underwater is critically important for the overall food web or the overall marine ecosystem. And for that, the sea resources or the marine resources which we are exploiting, that need to be done in a sustainable manner and be conserved, so that that overall ecosystem remain healthy for the overall value chain involved, or overall food web, you can say, or the food chain overall. So for that, these, when you are exploiting or utilizing those resources, then the side direct or indirect activities come across, and those all are including in this overall agenda under this SDG 14.
Okay, thank you very much. Nagmana Zafar, you wanted to add something? And
Captain Tariq Saab, when you read some official documents of UN, and even if you go to the website of SDG 14, you may find the word written inland waters over there. So it's not just restricted to oceans. I'll share references with you because while I was reading all this during my research, so I learned the inland is one of the associated components of life under water SDG 14 goal. And secondly, with regards to coral reef, Fatma, your own department is working so much on the coral reef. I know Dr. Shoaib is working a lot on these subjects, and coral reef will also be covered in upcoming tourism policy of Pakistan, in which we will be talking about ecotourism and marine and coastal tourism. We are making laws related to protection and how not to harm with tourists activity into the coral reefs of the country. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
okay, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, all the panelists. I must thank you, Admiral Asif Humayun Sahab, and Rear Admiral Retired Salim Akhtar Sahab, Dr. Abbas Najam Sahab, Qamar Javed Iqbal Sahab, Nagmana Zafar, Khalid Taimur Akram Sahab, and Zishan Sahab, and all those who took time out to listen very patiently to all the long speeches, and for like sitting 2 hours together in a row for such, it is wonderful. I think the takeaway from this webinar is, firstly, there is a dire need to pursue the pending policy to take up to the parliament, and I believe having a good network with parliamentarians and media, I believe it can be taken up with the support of Zishan Sahab. Do you hear me, Zishan Sahab? We can jointly take it up, and I think there is always जब हम इन्वायरमेंटल एक्ट के ऊपर बात कर रहे थे उस वक्त तो हम खैर बहुत बच्चे थे, लेकिन फिर भी हम बच्चों ने जो उस वक्त नए नए इन्वायरमेंटल रिपोर्टर्स बने थे, दे प्लेड अ वेरी क्रूशियल रोल इन दी डेवलपमेंट ऑफ इन्वायरमेंटल एक्ट 1997, और तब से लेके अब तक बहुत सारे पॉलिसी इंटरवेंशंस के ऊपर हमारे दोस्तों ने सबने मिलके बहुत सारा काम किया है, और आई बिलीव कि इसके ऊपर भी काफ़ी काम हो सकता है. सेकंड टेक अवे ये है कि स्टेक होल्डर्स का किसी एक जगह पे जमा होना जो है, दैट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड आई बिलीव विद द सपोर्ट एंड पैट्रनेज ऑफ एडमिरल Asif Sahab and Salim Sahab and Zishan Sahab, those like who are the main key players, and of course like some key players are could not join us today. We invited them, but unfortunately they had their own engagements and perhaps their own priority agenda today, and they could not join us. But we can also approach them again for such kind of platform where they can play their role. And I believe that there, as highlighted Qamar Javed Iqbal Saab, there is a gap between applied research, decision makers, and other stakeholders. We can bridge that gap with the different tools and techniques, with the different interventions. And with this, I would like Zishan Sahab to, if he has some concluding remarks, or want to thank all the panelists, and what Planning Commission can help us to go to implement like whatever like we have discussed here, and the future action plan. What could be the role of Planning Commission as the Director General of Maritime Affairs. Zishan sir.
Sir, thank you. Sir, first of all, sir, before wrapping up, I will like to answer a few queries, sir, during the discussion with Sir Asif Humayun, sir. Like IMO implementation, sir, in recent, IMO has started IMO member state audit scheme, that is MSAS. MSAS Pakistan audit was also
सर ये फोन किसका है? ये फोन जरा एक तरफ कर लें प्लीज. अच्छा अच्छा जी जी प्लीज गो अहेड जिशान.
Luckily, in March, 2 months back, they were planned to have an audit of Pakistan. Now it was rescheduled because of pandemic. That will provide, check and balance, the forensic audit for the Pakistan. The IMO team will come in Pakistan and they will have the audit for the in the light of SOLAS 1974, for MARPOL, for STCW code, and the other protocol with respect to the load lines and all these things. They will also care about with respect to the search and rescue activities, Navarian 9 responsibilities, in which MSA and Pakistan Navy Hydrography of Pakistan is also a stakeholder. They will also they will have the audit for that by the member team. Secondly, sir, with respect to the national maritime policy, Nahmana Zafar highlighted with respect to that. In fact, yes, you are right that the NMP was forwarded to at national level in the time of before this government regime. Now it is halt because there is another meeting going on, that is meeting on committee on blue economy. That was chaired by Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, in early 2018, and now it is about to we are about to finalize this meeting with the help of MoMA, Minister of Climate, Minister of Maritime Affairs is the basically chairperson and the leading this task for blue economy. In that, they have decided that national maritime policy will be processed after that committee report. And fourth meeting was held 15 days back, and we hope that within a month we will finalize that blue economy meeting with MoMA and all. Then we will pursue again with respect to the national maritime policy and national strategy, maritime strategy. We will process both. With respect to the SDG14, specifically to the Ministry of Planning, yes, you are right. Before the start of this meeting, I was discussing with Mr. Munir also that SDG14 is not amicably covered in our ministry. And I have discussed with my SDG director, CEO in the ministry. He was saying that please put up some proposal, and I'm writing something on it. NEMA, yes, NEMA is very much there to support this, so that at least I should forward some proposal to CEO SDG, and he will have some efforts with respect to the to address SDG14, sir. In the end, sir, thank you very much for all the participation, sir. I'm really thankful that we have discussed a lot of issues, because this topic is much deep. It is life below water, but in that below, people are doing a lot of PhDs between that. So we will keep on discussing this topic, so that we should have some way forward, and looking forward to you. Thank you, Munir sir.
बहुत शुक्रिया Zishan Saab for your concluding remarks, and with this I would once again thank you all the panelists, Admiral Asif Humayun Sahab, Rear Admiral Salim Akhtar Sahab, Dr. Najm Abbas, Nagmana Zafar Sahiba, Khalid Taimur Sahab, और बाकी अहबाब जिन्होंने इसमें शिरकत की, and those like who turned up to be part of the process. And thank you so much once again. और इसके साथ अल्लाह हाफिज़.